Aw. Nelson texted me. I'm sorry I can't make it, but I wanted to send some encouragement and send this picture from election night in 2017. Aw. Lee, get down. Aw. Nelson texted me.
Got that. We're live there. So now I need to go into Chrome and paste this. There.
Needed to be in live feed right now. So I should
Go into Chrome.
Why are you
And
here?
paste this.
Hey, Kid Shay, thanks for joining. We're just getting a few things set up on the back end. We'll be right back.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
Okay. Hey, Kid J, thanks for joining us. Do you have any questions? Are you able to stream to your Instagram and all that good stuff?
You said what? Say it one more time for
Are
me.
you, did you get my email with there's a delay, I'm sorry. Do you have any questions? Are you able to stream to your Instagram and all that good stuff? Sorry, there's a weird delay. 1 second. Testing, testing. It's live. Okay. Sorry, Kid J. My bad. There's a weird thing, internet. I don't know. Do you know how to connect the live stream, the StreamYard to your Instagram? Did you get that email? Testing.
Uh oh, there you go.
Live. Okay. Sorry, Kid J. My bad. There's a weird thing, internet. I don't know.
That's so weird. But no, I haven't figured out how to do it considering the fact it's Jesus. It's trying to make me switch my Instagram account to a professional one. And if I do, it's like trying to like unverify me and a whole bunch of stuff. It's acting very weird. Oh no, it's all right, Molly. I'm sorry. Give me 1 second, y'all. I'm still setting my mic up and stuff.
Okay, she jumped. Can you hear me in real time, Kid J?
I'm sorry, Lakeisha. Can you say that one more time?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. I can't hear you now, of course, because you muted. But
Okay, Kid J, can you hear me in real time?
Speak for me one more time. Sorry, I didn't have my mic plugged in. Go ahead one more time.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
Perfect. All right, there's no delay.
All right, cool.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. This is Charmaine Fletcher, Reverend Barber's Executive Assistant.
Hi, thank you so much for joining us.
You are so welcome, Molly. Bishop Barber will be joining by audio only.
Okay,
Okay.
that works. So he has the link and that is all good on that front.
I'm checking it now, so I'm just letting you know that he will not, my camera won't come on. So, are you reading me well?
Yes.
Okay, great.
That works.
So I'm gonna mute myself and stay on. Is there anything else you need to check?
No, you're all good. There's a weird delay right now we're trying to figure out, but it's all good right now.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Testing.
You sound good.
Okay.
Sorry, Molly, you did it. You did it.
Welcome, everybody. We will be getting started shortly. We're also streaming on all of our social media, so feel free to check us out there if you don't want to be on Zoom.
Hello, Molly.
Hi, yes.
We're not hearing the video.
Yep, it's only the audio for the video right now is only on Instagram, but once everyone joins, that will be gone and the panelists will be here.
Okay, great. Thank you. Do you have a time for Bishop to speak? What time he's going to actually be speaking?
It starts at 8 o'clock is when we're asking everyone to join.
No, what time will he actually be speaking? When he's on?
I'm gonna call you right now.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And then,
Hey, everybody, welcome, welcome, welcome. It's Hill, and I know that Bishop Barber's on, and Bishop Barber has a hard stop, so I want to jump right in with Bishop. Bishop, thank you for getting on this call. I mean, you and I have talked offline many times about voting turnout, and particularly among communities that have historically been ignored, communities with the highest wealth gap, highest amounts of dealing with all of the extenuant issues involved in poverty.
You gotta
And
wait it when I'm not.
can you hear me, Bishop?
Yes, I can. Yes, I can.
Fantastic. So, you know, I know that you have your book, and from this context of just having you on here personally and not, I'll say this, I'll preface it, but not specifically with any 501c3 organization, you are coming on as yourself and wanting to talk about these issues. How should we be talking about this, about getting communities? I say it all the time, the largest voting bloc in the country are people who don't vote. The most incarcerated people in the country are people from the poorest zip codes. The voting gap of folks that are significantly marginalized, that are significantly underrepresented politically, yet what should we be thinking about when it comes to a primary like this tomorrow in Michigan, when we know there are communities like Flint, communities like Muskegon Heights, communities like Benton Harbor, communities like Pontiac, certain communities like Detroit, many communities across the state that economically have been severely hurt and are still hurting, yet the voter turnout historically, particularly for a primary, has been very low.
That's right. Well, first of all, here, let me say, as your brother and as a friend, and as somebody who watches policy and the policies that you care about, and as a private citizen, I saw one of the people that were listening to us, and she simply said, "It's your time," and it is time. It's time for a voice like yours that is clear on the issues. And what I want to say to people, particularly poor and low wealth people, is what if you had the power to choose a senator, a governor, or a presidential candidate that once they got elected, they would fight for you to have a living wage, since the minimum wage has not been raised for 15 years, Hill. 15, not 5, not 10, 15 years, we've been stuck at $7.25.
Right.
And in 15 years, we've had people, some folk in the United States Senate, where you are headed, that literally say, well, if you make $7.25 an hour, you make $15,000 a year, and the poverty level is only 13 some $1,000, so you're really not poor. What if you had the power, you all, to elect a person that believes health care is a right? It's not something that should be given to you based on your job, which
Right.
Senator, what Brother Hill says. He says, I don't want people to have health care based on their job. I want to have health care based on their humanity. What if you had someone that understands that if you want to end the prison industrial complex, you need to have more jobs. You need to have opportunity for people. Well, what I want to say tonight is, poor, low wage, and frequent voters, you have the power. You have the power to do that. In Michigan, in 2016, the margin of victory for the presidential race, for instance, was 10,000 some votes. It was a little bit more than that in 2020. It was under 100,000. But the number of potential voters that were poor and low wage, that's $50,000 and less in a family of 4, was over 1 million voters. And over 500,000 right in.
And Bishop, you got to repeat that. So that's in Michigan, just in
Michigan.
So please repeat that so people hear this. Please repeat that.
Yeah. In the nation, 30 million poor and low wage eligible voters did not vote.
Wow.
In the ballot, in the states that gave us Trump, because Trump really got to be president by somewhat about 80,000 votes spread out over 3 or 4 states. In those states alone, over 5 million poor and low wage voters that were eligible to vote didn't vote. And the number one reason they didn't vote, they said nobody talked to them. But be that as it may, in Michigan, the margin of victory in the at-large elections has not been over 100,000 votes in the last 2 elections, but over 1+ million voters that are eligible, that make $50,000 or less, who care about living wages, who care about health care, didn't vote. So I'm not coming to chastise those folks. I'm coming to say,
Right.
you have power. Don't let the media tell you you don't have power. You literally have power in this primary tomorrow to say what kind of senator you want, whether you want a senator that truly cares about the issues and not just personality, but look at Brother Harper's agenda. Who says if you put me in the Senate, I'm going to do health care, I'm going to do living wages, I'm going to do that. And I'm saying this, as I said, as a private citizen. There are 30 million in this country now, poor and low-wage infrequent voters. And I'm not talking about, I'm talking about black, white, brown. The majority of those voters say that they care about issues like living wages, health care, voting rights, and forth, but they've sat out of
Right.
elections.
So Bishop, this is what I hear all the time. And basically, I don't disagree with the point, because I think that they're absolutely right. Folks say to me, man, some version of it doesn't matter.
Mhm.
I've never seen a return on the investment of my vote, so why should I? And they haven't. I mean, in other words, they're actually correct. They haven't. One of them said, look, I got sold hope and change, nothing changed. Then I got sold make America great again, and America got worse. So what difference does it make? And I said, well, first of all, there's the top of the ticket, and then there's the United States Senate. We talk about that. And once we start talking, it starts to make sense. And we start saying, you can do this. But I'll tell you, what do you say to folks who say, it doesn't really make a difference? What difference does it make? Why should I? I've never seen a return on the investment.
Well, I say, I give folks a strange answer sometimes. I say, well, you're right. It doesn't make a difference if you don't fully engage. And it doesn't make a difference if you say only vote and then you walk away from the process of lobbying and pushing folk. But if you combine the two, for instance, when we did the Tomorrow Monday movement in North Carolina, they told us we could not get North Carolina to raise its minimum wage because it was a southern state. But when we mobilized together and we pushed that for 2 years, the first year we came together massively, we won raising the minimum wage, we won same-day registration and early voting in the South. It doesn't make a difference if you just consider it your one vote. But if you consider it as a part of a movement, as a part of an agenda. So for instance, we've never seen a full maximization of poor and low wealth folk. Let's see that. Let's turn loose these 30 million votes. Let's turn loose over 1.2 million voters in Michigan alone, who you have power. Then after the election, stay engaged. How much difference can it make? Latasha's on. She'll tell you that in 2020, because the power to vote, the House of Representatives, we pushed them to pass living wages. Everybody would have been the minimum wage would have been $15 everywhere in the country, federal minimum wage or higher. And it got to the Senate. Now I want y'all to hear this, because you're talking about a Senate race here.
Mm-hmm.
In the Senate, when it got to the Senate, every Republican voted against it, and every so-called moderate Democrat voted, 8 of them. If they had not voted against it, then living wages would have passed, because Kamala Harris would have cast the deciding vote. And 43% of African Americans would have come out of poverty with 1 vote, and 55 million poor low-wage folk would have come out of poverty and got a living wage with 1 vote.
Now, this is an important point. I just want to, I need to double click on this, because this is I want to make this point about this race tomorrow. My opponent in this race bragged that 55 times in her first term, she voted against the party. She voted against, student loan debt relief in 2020, against the president and the party, and multiple times did that. Did not co-sponsor George Floyd Justice and Policing, did not co-sponsor Medicare for all. And so what Bishop just said was 8 senators,
Hey,
so-called moderate Democrats, could have delivered an amazing increase in terms of wage and living wage, but chose not to do so. So when people say, oh, they're both Democrats, it doesn't matter, it matters.
it matters.
Representation and who it is matters.
Right, and two voted if it wasn't for 2 votes, the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. All the Republicans voted, but then Manchin and Sinema stood against voting rights. Now, here's the point here I'm making. The living wages was in the Democratic platform. You can't be calling you. Why would you call yourself a Democrat and then get the power and go against the platform that's voted in the convention? So that's not anything to brag about. And so what you're saying, and it's in the platform, it's in the Democratic platform. I know because I was at the hearing when it was put there. I testified at that hearing that one of the goals of the Democratic Party will be to end poverty through things like debt relief, student debt relief, through child tax poverty, through earned income tax credit, through reeling in corporate greed, and through living wages. So if you're voting against that stuff, then what you're doing is you're running with a name, but then you're not acting in the character of that name or that platform. That's the power of senators, and you all need to hear that.
And you know, Bishop, you wouldn't know this, but we got a great victory this past week. You know, I've been the One Fair Wage National Ambassador since 2016. And it went all the way to the Michigan Supreme Court. And just this past Thursday, we got a great victory. We are going to get a floor. And I want to say this, you know, I'm a small business owner myself. And when you hear the rhetoric that tries to say small business owners are against raising the wage, it is a lie. Because you know what? If my employees are doing it, so in my business, they're tipped workers. Downtown Detroit, I could legally pay them $4 and some change plus their tips. We pay them a floor of $15 an hour plus their tips, because I believe that there should be a $15 an hour floor for all workers, period. Now, that's what we do. But One Fair Wage movement is pushing that for this increase over time. And you're going to see that we finally won in the Michigan Supreme Court. And you're going to see these increases. And remember, y'all, this is about recirculation of the dollar. If you're making more to at the store where they're earning is making more to the right of my store, then they have disposable income to come spend it at my shop and vice versa. So everybody wins. Racing to the bottom to try to pay people the least makes everybody lose. And so we have to raise the wage. We have to raise the wage. And I'll say this real quick too. A lot of people don't realize that. Look at a behemoth like Walmart. Now they pay many of their employees so little that their employees have to be on SNAP. And did you know that nearly 20% of all SNAP spending, it happens where? Walmart. So they're actually taking your money to then pay themselves back by underpaying workers. This is what's going on when you talk about corporate and government collusion. And we have to break the back of that by start electing candidates that are not taking corporate PAC money, that are not beholden to special interests, and therefore will not vote accordingly to maintain the status quo and underpay workers. Go ahead, Bishop.
And that sounds like your candidacy.
That's exactly
because the bottom line is when corporations are using tax dollars to supplement their greed and their income, they pay people less. They support candidates that get up and rave against social safety nets, but then they use those same social safety nets to subsidize their workers rather than paying them fair. And 3 Nobel Peace Prize economists a few years ago did a study, won the Nobel Peace Prize because they proved empirically that raising the wage would not, in fact, negatively impact the economy. It would positively impact. In fact, it would pump $330 billion. If you just raise the floor to $15 an hour as a minimum wage, that's the floor. Nobody could be paid less than that. You would pump some $30 billion into the economy. You lift some 50 million people out of poverty and low wages. But here's one other thing I'll say. Your candidacy, and when you talk about economics and healthcare, those of you that are out there that have not voted, vote. Those of you that are going to vote, get some people and take them with you to vote in this primary. Because really, when a person says, I care about your health care, your voting rights, your living wages, so and so, and if a senator, I'm going to fight for these things and win, they are saying they care about your life. 800 people die a day from poverty and low wages in this country. That's 295,000 people a year. There's recent empirical data that shows how long-term poverty is deadly. It's not just wrong. It's not just that it hurts. It's deadly. And whether you're Black and poor and low wealth or white and poor and low wealth, all over the country, even when whether I'm in Michigan or whether I sell to folk, if you can't pay your light bill because you don't make enough money, we're all black in the dark. If your child can't eat properly, children don't growl black. Their stomachs don't growl black or white. They growl pain and hurt. If cancer does not have a black cancer and a white cancer, if you get sick and you don't have health care, and one of the worst things, and Hill, you've said this, one of the worst things we've done is the people that have saved this economy and country since COVID have been poor and low-wage essential workers.
That's right.
One of the sad realities is they went to work to save this country without paid family leave, without guaranteed floor for living wages, and many of them without health care. That we should rectify that. Now that we're not all the way out of court, we should rectify that. We should say to these people who risk their lives for the rest of us, essential workers, that we're not going to treat you as expendable anymore. And we as a society are going to prove it by guaranteeing your health care and living wages, your voting rights. And that's what Hill Harper is. One of the things that his candidacy is promising. And you all need to make your way. If you haven't voted, vote. If you have voted, get some other people. If you haven't voted, get some people to go with you and do it. But do not sit out this election. You have too much power and you can make a difference.
Yes. Thank you, Bishop. I know that you have to run. You have a hard stop, but listen, I want to keep going. I need to ask you at least one more thing though, because there's a response that comes up all the time, and I would love to hear how you respond. I know how I respond, where people say, "Well, listen, Hill, that's all of that sounds fine, and yes, we should want to save people, but we can't afford it now." And I, when someone says that, I walk them through. I said, under the Obama presidency, the national annual budget was federal budget was 4.2 trillion. Then it went up to 6.2 under the 45th president, and then now we're looking at a $7.2 trillion budget. The money is there. Now, how we choose to allocate and spend the money is a different set of choices. And I talk about, are we going to use our money to spend it on endless foreign violence, or do we want to spend it on healthcare here at home? Do we want to bail out and give tax breaks to big oil, big pharma? Do we want to actually support public education or infrastructure and jobs and low interest loans for entrepreneurs and local businesses here at home? All of these are just choices that we make in the budget, and those choices, y'all, happen in the United States Senate. What do you say when people say, well, Bishop, of course we want to save people. We want to save those 800 people a day, but we can't afford it. What do you say when folks say that?
Well, first of all, we want to save ourselves. And then the second thing is, of that 40 million people that are poor and low wealth, the majority of them are women, and the large majority are working poor people. We're not talking, our vision of what we say poor and low wealth is not just somebody asking for change on the side of the street, which is serious. We're going to deal with that. We're talking about the person that has a manufacturing job, but they sleep in the parking lot at night because they can't afford. We're talking about the healthcare worker that lifts you up and wash your backside, but can't afford to go in the very health facility that they serve. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about teachers who are making poverty wages, low wages, the low wage job. What I say to folk here is this. You got to look at, don't be snookered, don't be fooled. when the banks were failing, somebody came up with the phrase, the banks are too big to fail. And we found money all of a sudden. Well, if banks are too big to fail, then human beings are too precious to fail, to be failed and to let go. Secondly, it cost us more to leave things as they are. There's a study that came out of Columbia and out of Brown University, I think, that did an analysis on the cost of child poverty, the cost of not addressing it, the cost of not providing living wages, the cost of not providing health care. Joseph Stiglitz wrote a book called The Price of Inequality. It costs more to keep the inequality going rather than to do justice and do what is right. If healthcare would benefit the economy, ending child poverty actually lifts the economy, because what happens is if you do the right thing, you cut the subsidies, because people would rather have a living wage job than to go down and have to wait on some form of subsidy. So if we just took 10% of the bloated part of the military industrial complex, not what goes to the veterans and to wounded people, but what goes to unnecessary overpriced contracts, you could basically guarantee every child preschool. You could deal with healthcare. The money is there. The special rapporteur, I'll say this lastly, at the UN told me one time, he said, Barbara, there are 3 myths we have to deal with. This was at the UN. He said, number one, the lie that we don't have the resources. We do. The lie that we don't know how to fix these issues. We do know how to fix them. We have programs that work. If they were fully engaged, fully funded, we could fix them. But and the lie that somebody's taken from another person to give to another person. That's why I talk about poverty in all of its racial diversity. 66 million poor, low-wage white people, 26 million poor, low-wage black people, because too often poverty is racialized in a way to marginalize it, in a way to keep us from dealing with it. But the last thing he said, the thing we lack the most is what we do lack is a moral commitment in policy to do what is right, the moral consciousness to do right. And morality, as we talk about, is not just something is right and doing it because of it is right, but the rightness of it will also set the ship of state right. In other words, who wouldn't want to see 50-some million people lifted up out of poverty and low wages? And if you do that, you pump billions of dollars into the economy. And then that benefits all of us.
That's right. And finally, and see, it's hard for me to let you go, Bishop, because your wisdom. And finally, when you talk about, because I do say this, I've been saying this on the campaign trail, and I actually say it to my son too. Did you do the right thing when it mattered? And quite often in our politics, the answer is no, folks. They do what's either politically expedient, or they do political theater, or they benefit big donors, special interests, PACs, super PACs, independent expenditures. What is the right thing? Meaning, if we can't get folks to vote, and we can't convince them, then I feel like we have to talk about, should the conversation be, did you do the right thing? Or should the conversation be, take your power or use your power? The one power or the main power you have is collective action and voting. And is the fault on folks who are attempting to organize and not doing it well enough? Or are there other forces at work that are so powerful that it makes that organization very difficult? Well, what is it?
Well, I think it's complicated at times. Voter suppression in any form is bad, but also voter suppression when you suppress yourself by saying that it won't matter. For a number of reasons. Historically, you shouldn't say it shouldn't matter, because then you're saying people who died for it wasted their lives in vain. But the other side of it, it does matter. We're in a time when elections are turning on 1 and 2 and 3 percentage points.
That's right.
And so if you have a group of folk control 5 or 10% of the vote, you can do a whole lot, but you can't do a whole lot staying home. A democracy is hard work. You have to have in a democracy litigation, legislation, agitation, voter participation. It's not either or. It's both and. Then candidates need to be forthright. One good thing about your candidacy is you're talking right at the issues. You're not talking around. You're not just waving the flag. You're not just putting on some show. You're saying, here, I'm laying it out here. Here are the things that are going to happen. Here's what I'm going to fight for. And we need more of that. We need more clarity. I actually think that right now, the Senate ought to vote on 3 things in September: living wages, health care, and voting rights, and throw it right over to the House and say, now, see what you're going to do with this. And let everybody see where people stand, because folk need to see where people stand and then act on it when they vote. You need to vote for 2 reasons. Vote, number 1, for what a person has done, and number 2, for what they say they're going to do. And then after you vote for them based on what they say they're going to do, you need to keep the pressure on them and remind that once they get into office. All 3 things must be done. You can't do one and leave off the other. You just can't. But at the baseline, from a negative standpoint, listen, y'all, listen to me real careful. You know what happens when we don't exercise our full power. Look
That's
at
right.
what we had for president a few years ago. Look at what we have now. Look at the insurrection. Look at the candidate. Look at, as I said, when those people didn't vote living wages, and 57 people said no to 55 million Americans. That's real. That's real. And if you have the power to stop that, you should never back away from utilizing that power. There comes a time here in our collective reality that we have to say, not on my watch, not on my watch, and that I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that this democracy feels the power of my participation, that feels the power of my participation. And so it's time. It's time to move. It's time to vote. It's time to stand. Don't sit out. And then lastly, really what we should be doing in this country, and it is what does establishing justice look like? What does providing for the common defense and promoting the general welfare look like? That's what I'm asking. Take those principles and put them on top of any policy. Denying people living wages is to not establish justice. And if you're not establishing justice, then you're in violation of the Constitution, in my estimation, at least the moral framework of the Constitution. And remember, Dr. King said something. He said the reason he pushed America is because she said it on paper, what she was supposed to be about.
That's
and
right.
If he said, I wouldn't be doing this in any other country because maybe they didn't say, but America, you said what you were about on paper: establishing justice, providing for the common defense, promoting the general welfare. If those are our principles, then we ought to be pushing that in when we vote on people based on how their vision, their promise, their platform relates to the policies that uplift all people, especially those at the bottom.
Bishop, you are a national treasure. I'm proud to call you my fraternity brother. And listen, I love, I just love hearing from you and talking to you, because you give so much wisdom, and you articulate things in a way that I think, and I definitely talk about them differently. But I love hearing it because it just makes me smile, and you're very clear. And I just like, whenever you talk, I just sit back and say, well, he said, that's all I have.
Well, now, a lot of us say that about you. And look, all the folk in Michigan, vote Michigan, vote Michigan. You got Hill Harper running for the Senate. I'm not even going to tell you to vote for him because you like him. Vote for him because you love his policies. Look at the policies. Look at the policies. Where the brother stands. If you agree with those, go to the polls. Take somebody with you. Don't sit out. You've got the power. Let's do it. Let's do it now.
That's it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Bishop. God bless you. I appreciate you.
Take care now.
All right, now. So we just heard amazing things from Bishop. Now we have Kathleen Trigg Jones joining us and Kid J. I really want to bring Kid J on because I need to hear from the youth. I think it's very important. Hi, Kathleen. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for joining.
Hey,
Kid,
Bill.
and then Ben Crump is on too. And so, Kid J, let's go to you. Talk to us from a youthful perspective, and then Ben, we're going to come right to you. Thank you for joining.
Absolutely.
Kid, what do we need to do to get young people to vote? Because Kid J, you're here in Michigan. You've been a youth ambassador for the campaign for a very long time. You've done an amazing job, amazing engagement. But the data is still coming back that in some cases, in some communities, less than 5% of young people going to vote in a primary, 3%, 2% in some. And is it the fact that they don't know that there's a primary? Is it the fact that they don't know what the primary is? They know there's a primary, but they don't know what it is. The fact that they just feel checked out, and what we talked about with Bishop Barber about the fact that many people just feel like, what's the point? What's the use?
Yeah.
What can we do to bring the youth in and get them engaged?
Well, they could know that it's either not a primary in general, or they're not educated. Cause I was just talking to one of my friends the other day. He's around my age. I'm 25, and to this day, he still hasn't voted. And I've been talking to him about you, was trying to, when I was moving around, spreading the word, and he just literally saw no point in voting because he said it legit doesn't matter. So when I was going into what you stand for, as far as how you put the people before the money, dude, how you were calling for a ceasefire. I told him about the quote when you were saying there's no good war and there's no bad peace. And I was just trying to tell him how you were trying to get the guns off the street, stop the violence, and protect the kids. And once I explained it to him like that, not coming from a political standpoint, he understood it more, if that makes sense. So I think the way to get them engaged is to try to get on their side, apps, man, TikTok videos, Instagram, Facebook, as long as you're consistent with your socials, trying to push the movement, they will pay attention to it. So I thought a good idea that you did, Hill, was when you made your song that you just dropped. I'm actually on the remix. And I think that's actually real. I thought that was a nice, genius move because it's catchy and it catches the youth ear. So before I got on here, I was doing a little bit more research about our voting rate from ages like 18 to 24, what we consider youth. And it told me back in like 23, actually I think it was 2002. Not 2002, sorry, 2022. About 2 years ago, the age range from 18 to 24, the percentage of people voting was 37%, and we considered that good. That's not good.
Yeah, but and that was a record high
right.
in Michigan.
Mhm.
And it was a lot of that was pushed by women's reproductive freedom, women's reproductive rights being on the ballot.
Yeah.
And the voting in primaries though has been a challenge, right?
Mhm.
And what I appreciate about you is that you use your music to connect, but you also use your intellect and your charisma and all of that, which I think is great.
Thank you.
Do you think that we can get turnout tomorrow with the youth, or do you think it's just going to be about the general and the presidential election in November?
I think we can. I think we can definitely get that vote tomorrow. But what the people need to understand, remember you were saying this the other day, if we don't get in tomorrow, then we don't see November. So I encourage everybody to go out with your families. Please go vote, please, because we need to get in there this November. We really need to.
Good. And I think you told me you're able to stay this whole Zoom, right? You're gonna be with us?
Yeah.
I need you, man. Don't leave. I want to go to Attorney Crump because I don't know how long I'm going to have him, and I want to make sure that you're muted. You're muted, Attorney Crump. You're muted. There we
Hey,
go.
Hill.
Hey, how are
How you
you?
doing, Senator?
Good to see you. Good to see you. Appreciate you joining us. I want to jump right in with you because, you are seeing things for firsthand of people, obviously in your practice, you work directly with people and families that have experienced high degrees of trauma, and they're going through extreme degrees of pain and have been hurt. And what I've been hearing on the campaign trail is that so many people feel that the federal government doesn't even have their back. And that's in part why there's a pushback on voting and voting participation. Like, man, we keep electing these same type of people to office, and gun violence happens to our communities consistently. And the only folks that are showing up to help us are the lawyers, the trial lawyers who are there. We call them and they show up. So Ben Crump is there fighting for me, but my senator's not fighting, or my congressperson's not fighting. What do you think we can do, and what should we do to one, change that, and two, have real impact in community in a positive way?
Well, obviously, Hill, because you've been out there with us on the front line, marching with the young people, saying justice for Samuel Sterling. Now we're fighting for justice for Sonia Massey. Just like we fought for justice for George Floyd, for Breonna Taylor, for Ahmaud Arbery, for Tyree Nichols, and so many of those young people who march in the streets when they kill us, and to say, what can we do to have them stop killing us? Well, if we get good people elected like you in the United States Senate, then we will have a chance at passing the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, where we'll have greater accountability for police, where they won't be getting away literally with murder, Hill Hopper, with qualified immunity. And so I pray for this primary that Black people are motivated with the death of Samuel Sterling. I mean, the car ran him down in the Burger King parking lot. And I mean, it's on video. And it's like Sonia Massey, if they are not motivated to say that this could be my brother, or this could be my sister, my mother, then shame on us. Because just like we went out in record numbers and voted in the 2020 presidential election after George Floyd was tortured to death, we need to do that in this primary so we can make sure that we can prevent another Sonia Massey. Here, she was shot in her face. This innocent Black woman, all she said was, "I rebuke you in the name of Jesus." And the police officer said, "No, you effing won't." And he stepped around the counter and shot her in her face, here, Harper. That's, again, why we need the systematic police reform on the federal level. I mean, the blood of Sonia Massey is on the hands of all of those who won't get out and vote and say that our people lives matter, that Black lives matter. It just can't be lip service. You have to do something with it. It can't just be all talk. No, we have to have action. We have to walk it like we talk it. If we keep saying George Floyd matter, Breonna matter, Sonia matters, Samuel Sterling right there in Michigan matters. If we're saying that, then we got to get out and vote. This primary is so critical because with you, brother, as I've told you before, with you on the ticket, it energizes the base. It helps Kamala Harris become the first woman, the first Black woman to be president in November. But we got to get you on that ballot, and that starts tomorrow. I don't know if they can read my shirt here. I literally have a case we up against. It says, "What is a Black job? Becoming the first woman to be president of the United States." Because we're up against people who don't respect us at all. They, with the Project 2025, they're trying to send us back. So we need our most brilliant, our most gifted, our most articulate, our most resourceful brothers and sisters like yourself to be in the United States leading us. So please, everybody, do like me and my brothers in Omega Psi Phi are doing. Kathleen Trigg, what we have decided to do is, it's not just enough for us to go vote, but we're trying to take 10 people to the polls with us.
That's right.
All our cousins and nephews, you know, those people who are not likely to vote. And we know who they are. I got a lot of them in my family. So I wrote their names down here and I'm taking them to the poll. I'm making sure they're registered. And so if you're in Michigan, please, just don't go to the polls by yourself. Take some brothers and sisters with you. Give them a ride. Buy them lunch. Do whatever it takes to vote for Hill Harper, because he is the hope that we can prevent another George Floyd from happening.
Thank you, Ben. Kathleen, I know you've been on. You want to jump in?
Yeah. Thank you for those words, Attorney Crump. It's funny. We tossed the mic to Attorney Crump, and he doesn't need an introduction. He can just take it and run with it. He's out there in the streets right now, really representing us on the ground. We've seen it over and over. We keep seeing it happening. And when the call came for him to come and join in, it was not even a question. Where do you need me? How do we get people out? The bottom line is, we can't emphasize enough. Tomorrow matters in Michigan. It matters in Michigan because if we don't get everybody to the polls tomorrow, it doesn't matter how much you want to see change. It doesn't matter how much you believe in the words of Attorney Ben Crump or what soon to be Senator Hill Harper has to say. If you don't get out to the polls tomorrow, there will not be a November. And so that's really what the point is tonight, is really emphasizing that sometimes we think about the general election in November, but we're not always attuned to the dates that matter in order to even make it there. And so we've got to surround our brother. We've got to surround our brother Hill Harper tonight. As Ben said, take everybody, your mama, your sister, your coworkers, and also get educated. Know what the issues are, so that when people come to you with some nonsense and talk about, different issues and things they heard on social media, you can speak, truth to power, as Attorney Crump likes to say.
Amen.
Speak truth to power, as opposed to just guessing and continuing to perpetuate lies that are based on unfactual, untruths that you've been from social media.
I'll tell you this, there's a very deep bench of Omegas here in Michigan. I'm hoping, Brother Crump, that you can reach out to those, the Marshall Bullocks of the world and many others. I know you all had a powerful convening down in Florida or earlier this summer. If we can get that energy out tomorrow and get the bros out, that would be really helpful. So any of the leadership you have up here, please remind them to get them out, to send them out, because we need the whole Divine Nine showing up and showing out. And that's an important voting block. We got to remember this. There's a history of the Divine Nine literally controlling outcomes of election, particularly on the sorority side, and AKs, Adels, etc. My mother is an AK from a single letter chapter, Talladega College, and in Alabama, and every vote matters. Every vote matters, and to that point, and you kind of alluded to it. I say, this representation is a matter of life or death. And I say that without hyperbole. You mentioned all those lives lost, and it has to do with representation and what systems are in place to allow things to happen. Sonia Massey actually called for help, right? So the officers that were in her home were actually called there through a distress call from her. And that was known. It really is so tragic. I mean, any loss of life is tragic. Any loss of life is tragic. But go ahead, Ben.
Here, as Kathleen said, this is our time, man. Hill is our best and our brightest. I mean, to be young, black, and gifted and want to serve the public. I mean, he could be doing so many other things, but he has made a conscious choice to be intentional about the future of our children, about the future of his son, about the future of your sons and daughters. And that's critical. I'm going to call Marshall Bullock. I'm going to call every Omega I know in Michigan and tell them, bruhs, we got to get out and vote, because it takes that extra effort. Just don't assume people are going to do it. Don't assume they know about the Michigan primary tomorrow. Let's get on the phones and let's roll up our sleeves and let's do it, man. I think about how busy people like Kathleen and them are. If they can take time out of their schedule, yeah, we don't have an excuse to say for this one night, the old sports analogy, if you've been holding it back for important time, well, this is it. Ain't no tomorrow if
That's
you
right.
don't act today. I mean, we got 24 hours from now, starting
right.
now, to get everybody to the poll. I'm gonna do it tonight. I'm gonna be doing it tomorrow. I'm calling all my friends, all my frat brothers, all my fellow lawyers. I mean, I'm calling everybody saying, please, please, please help Hill win.
That's
you
right.
can go to helphillwin.com. Let's start posting on social media. Yeah, let's do everything we can to have a leader that speaks for us. His opponent did not come to the rally to march for Samuel Sterling. So that told me where her priorities were. But Hill Harper was there with his son. I mean, that's, you don't have to tell me. As my grandmother said, I'd rather see a sermon than hear one any day of the week. Where Hill Harper showed us what he stood for when he took time out of a busy campaign schedule to come and stand with the families of those Black boys' families who have been killed unjustly. Both of them on video. Peter Loyola, you remember the driving while black case?
That's right.
I mean, it's so many reasons why we got to leave it all out on the field for Hill. Leave it on the field for Hill.
I love
Leave
it.
it on the field for Hill. Leave it on the field for Hill.
And then you said it,
Yeah.
Ben, helphillwin.com. That's what we're doing. Any support or help. We are literally trying to run ads on radio, television all day until 8 p.m. and the polls close tomorrow to remind people, let them know to vote or engage, to hand out all sorts of information to really engage voters. We're going to be bouncing around from multiple polling locations. And remember, this is a statewide race. A lot of people say, Hill, it's a Detroit race. No, this is a statewide race. This race goes all the way up in the Upper Peninsula, where people are getting ravaged by PFAS poisoning.
Yes.
And you know, I'm the only candidate that's calling for the shutdown of Line 5, which has already had 31 breaches in our Great Lakes. 21% of the world's fresh water supply, surface water supply, touches Michigan shores, and we're messing around with a Canadian oil company that had a breach in the Kalamazoo River, poisoned that in 2010, and now we're messing around with our water and allowing big oil to write big checks to candidates that don't call for shutting it down. You know, and I'm sure your law firm deals with a number of environmental justice cases.
Yeah.
Obviously, we know the horrors of Flint, which you worked on and have worked on in still 10 years, and the folks still haven't gotten compensated. And so can you talk a little bit about environmental justice briefly? Because that impacts people all over the state of Michigan.
Certainly. You know, when we talk about environmental injustice, really, I define it, Kathleen Trigg Jones, you're the communications expert, but I try to just speak to the people and meet them where they're at. This is about environmental racism. They're not going and putting chemical, toxic, pollutant, poisonous plants in the backyards of their children's schools, but they'll do it in Black and brown communities or minority communities because they don't think we matter. And unless we got a champion, unless we got a warrior like Hill Harper, who's educated, who can be able to communicate with the masses like Moses, say, hello, you can't do this in my community. If you won't do it in your community, then you can't do it in our community. Hill speaks for all of us. I mean, he speaks for poor people, he speaks for affluent people, he speaks for Black people, he speaks for white people, he speaks for Muslims, he speaks for Jews, he speaks for all of us. He sees the humanity in all of us. And you know, on a very personal level, I will tell you, if we really want to see Kamala Harris win the presidency of the United States, especially in Michigan, she's going to have an energized base, somebody who brings enthusiasm to the electorate. And I'm just telling y'all, from my observation, Hill Harper is the best Senate candidate to help Kamala Harris. So if you're wanting to march and stomp for Kamala, then you need to be marching and stomping for Hill. I mean, I can't say it
Let's talk
enough,
about that a
y'all.
little bit. Yeah.
Yes,
You
please,
know what, Ben, I
Kathleen.
was gonna say, let's talk about that a little bit, Hill, because sometimes people don't really understand the correlation between how getting you in office actually is going to really make a difference. Right now, there's a lot of fanfare and righteously so around our first female president we're about to elect. But, you know, making sure that we're also able to turn the Senate is going to be a huge part of that equation.
Yeah, well, Michigan is a battleground state, and the way you win, the way Democrats win in Michigan is turning out in large numbers a united coalition of voters. As you know, folks have to understand, in 2016, the margin of victory in Michigan was around 10,000 votes. It was that close. And then most recently in 2020 was a little bit over 100,000 votes. Now, still extremely close in a state of over 10 million plus people. And so what does that mean? It means large African-American turnout. It means large turnout from the Arab and Muslim and immigrant communities. It means large turnout among young people. It means large turnout among progressives and union workers, et cetera. That's the winning coalition for Democrats in Michigan. And that's how we win. And so in so doing, our candidacy speaks to those specific coalition groups much more than my opponent. And so we're going to be able to have those base communities energized. We've already announced our unity agenda for Michigan, where we brought all those communities together. And that's how we win. And that's how we'll deliver Michigan for the Harris campaign.
Yeah. And Kathleen, can I ask Hill this? Hill, I mean, and I tell you this all the time, man. You're one of the most brilliant brothers I know.
Yes.
And you were on the Breakfast Club, and you were breaking down the true power of the Senate, that the Senate controls the money. I mean, the Senate controls who's going to be on the Supreme Court. I mean, and those are the two things that affect Black people more than anything else. So can you just educate people so we can be empowered to understand the role of the Senate and why we must vote?
Okay, yes, thank you. I will break that down for those of you who are listening and too young to remember. On Saturday mornings, Schoolhouse Rock, and I'm just a bill. Here it goes. The Supreme Court rules on the constitutionality of what the Senate passes. The executive branch or the president signs into law or vetoes what the U.S. Senate passes. The House of Representatives, all those members in every state, there's a different number in every state because of based off population of members of House of Representatives. They send a bill to the Senate. Now, the Senate can amend it and send it back, can add things to it, can change the title, can do virtually anything they want to a point, and then they pass. The Senate is the only entity that passes. It's the most powerful body, deliberative body in all of politics in all of the world. And they do two critical things that Attorney Crump just mentioned that are so important, that affect us every day of our lives. One, they confirm lifetime appointments of federal judges. Supreme Court verdicts affect us every single day of our lives. Just within the last 6 weeks, we've seen some horrendous verdicts that are impacting people's lives. They just disenfranchised 30,000 Black votes with the ridiculous gerrymandering of drawing a district like a jigsaw puzzle and disenfranchise people's votes, et cetera. There's many, many others. Chevron deference ruling is crushing the National Labor Relations Board and OSHA and the ability for environmental protections. Horrendous ruling again. And so we can, I don't want to get off the table. Yeah, Roe v. Wade. These are things that we're going to have to legislate if we're going to get universal health care done that includes mental health, if we're going to get women's reproductive rights, women's reproductive freedom done, if we're going to get common sense gun laws passed. The number one cause of death of children today, my son's 8 years old, is gun violence. And the fact that we're allowing the NRA and the gun lobby to control policy and legislation to this degree is outrageous. And so the other thing the Senate does that's even more impactful to your life than the federal judges is 100 people in this country control the distribution of $7.2 trillion of your money every year. 100 people. And Shirley Chisholm said, if you don't have a seat at the table, bring a folding chair, because you have to have a seat at the table. You have to be a part of that conversation of the way the money and how it's distributed. And so we've talked about it before. We've already talked about the National Defense Authorization Act getting rubber stamped because of the power of Department of Defense contractors and their lobbying and their ability to dictate policy, where Mark Pocan and Barbara Lee put forth a bill called the People Over the Pentagon, which I hate to say what I'm about to say, was just only a $100 billion reduction in that spending. And unfortunately, my opponent in this race did not support that. We have to take control, like my grandmama used to say. You want to know something about anybody? Look how they spend their money. You want to know about the United States of America? Look how we spend our money. Are we going to spend it to take care of people, healthcare, education, affordable housing, living wage, entrepreneurs, and economic empowerment? Or are we going to spend it on doing sweetheart deals for corporations and sending your money overseas for endless wars? These are real choices that you have to make, and it's real choices. And all of those things happen in the United States Senate. It's a longer term than the president as well. When I tell you it's more powerful, I'm being honest with you. This is it. And to have an open U.S. Senate, this is the first truly open U.S. Senate seat in Michigan in almost 30 years. Ben, it may not come again for another 30. So listen.
And we got to seize the moment. And I will tell you here, this is a real choice we're making, brothers and sisters. We could talk all night, but I will tell you, Hill ain't gonna sleep tonight. And I want you to get a little sleep, but I want you to get up early in the morning and get people to the polls. And just think about it, man. If we got a couple of hundred people on this call, and if everybody bought 10, that will make a difference.
Absolutely.
He said it was just 10,000 people who decided the outcome in the last election. So if you just get 10 people to come with you, you can make the difference. It could be critical mass.
That's right.
I ain't the smartest guy in the room. And arithmetic wasn't my thing, but I know if I can get 10 people and Kathleen get 10 of her friends and everybody keep getting 10, we can win this thing, y'all.
We can.
We can shock the world.
That's right. Ben, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I so appreciate you and your energy. Please, if you can stay. If you can't, I completely understand. I know you had a tight window, and I appreciate you. I see my cousin Stanley Jordan on, and he's about to bless us with some music. But Stanley, before you do, I want to go back to Kid J. Kid J, I didn't know if Kid J wanted to bless us with a song first or not. Kid J, you still there? You still there?
Yeah,
Okay.
I ain't gonna leave you hanging, man. I ain't gonna leave.
Okay, so are you gonna bless us with a song, or you want to just kind of talk about what you think the issues are that we need to be dealing with, or how we can get people out to vote? I didn't know if you want to do a song or not.
I can. I got. So a while ago, I wrote this poem for it was like for George Floyd back when everything went down, and it's for our people. So I'd actually like to.
That'd be beautiful. That would be beautiful. Please.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Arbery and George Floyd shouldn't have died, and if the system didn't fail him, they'd still be alive with all the pain and agony while on his neck, and he cried. I know they hear us, they don't see us like they legally blind, but nah, I know they see us making it moving. We making the movement. We ride for our brothers and sisters that we keep on losing. Y'all expect us to sit back like it never ever happened. The man in blue is quick to jump if we all come into action. If we don't see the story, the video gets no traffic. I'm tired of going places where I'm judged upon my blackness. They treat us as we're animals, as if we weren't human. If this the land of the free, then me and my family moving, because as African Americans, we work for where we are. We've been through the beatings, but we also heal the scars just to go through this again. But now it's just twice as hard. If they try to put us down, then we got to stand up. How are they going to be protectors when they ain't the ones hunting us? I hate being in a place with a system I don't trust. For my people, I'm standing up. There was another line, but I had to cut it short.
No, that's fantastic. And Ben Crump knows something about
Yeah.
the George Floyd case. In fact, a whole lot about it.
Yeah.
And I think if that's the first time he's ever heard that, which it probably is, I think that's a
Mm.
beautiful thing.
Yeah, I was actually excited to do it. Ben, I appreciate everything that you do for our people. I know you probably hear it all the time, but I want you to hear it from me.
Hey, kid, thank you, brother, for using your voice to uplift the culture, King.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That's beautiful.
Yes, sir.
And I'll say this, and this is a piece where I want to go to Stanley Jordan, who's my cousin, who's, you're talking about Stanley's considered the greatest guitarist in the world. And that's not exaggeration or hyperbole. And so to have him bless this convening, I think bringing arts together with intellect. So having a poem like that, Kid J, and having Bishop Barber's wisdom and Ben Crump's wisdom and Kathleen, your wisdom, and then having Stanley, your wisdom through your genius is just a blessing, and so how are you doing? I know you've been traveling. Weren't you were you in Brazil playing shows, or are you still in Brazil, or where are you? See a high tech, and we can't hear you. You should no, we can't hear you. All right, we're gonna get that. We're gonna get that. Stanley, keep working on it. Just break in when you're good, or we'll hear you. Hey, Kid J.
Yeah.
Do you find that when you do either a poem or a song or a rap song, that if you do it in a conscious way, that potentially hurts your ability as far as marketing and marketability and all of that? Is there a pressure on you to do content that maybe doesn't uplift the community or society, or do you even think about that, or is it just you do what you want anyway or no matter what?
I was about to say I pretty much do whatever I want as far as like how I'm feeling. That's just the type of person I am, and just the way I was trying to teach the youth growing up that you don't have to make music a certain type of way. You don't have to talk about violence and the guns and the murder music is what my dad calls it. Oh, there you go. Look, he chimed in.
Yeah, there he is.
My bad, Stanley. But yeah. So it's never been hard for me. But I do love how it it makes me different from other artists. Because I have people tell me like how you do conscious music without cussing, and I'm like, it's not really, it's a talent, you know what I mean? But I feel like everybody could do it if that's what you're dedicated to. That's just what I'm dedicated to. But,
That's great, man. Well, listen, I'm so proud. You've been an amazing youth ambassador for the campaign.
Thank you.
Let's keep pushing it until 8 p.m. tomorrow. Any ideas you have about getting the youth out tomorrow? Like, what is there something we can do same day? What are you thinking about doing? What's the plan?
So I started a whole bunch of so tonight specifically, I want to put together a whole bunch of community group chats. So if y'all watching this, y'all can go to my Instagram or any of my socials. It's at Kid J Official Kid J. I want to start a whole bunch of community group chats and just send out a whole bunch of maxi texts of get out there tomorrow. The time is now, and yeah. So that's what I'm gonna do right now to push out extra support, and then even after tomorrow, we still gonna keep going, posting stuff, and so yeah, I definitely have some great ideas that I feel like you'd like.
Beautiful, man. Well, thank you. All right, well, stay on and let's listen to Stanley. Stanley, I think you're plugged in. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. How are you, Hill?
Oh man, great to hear your voice. I smile ear to ear whenever I see you. I'll tell people a quick story. I remember going, I think it was the first, definitely your first album. It was the farm in Iowa for a family reunion, and you had just finished your first album. I think you had just left school, and you gave me this is back when it was vinyl. Albums were vinyl. Yes, it was that long ago. You gave me your first album, and you have built the most incredible career to be one of the most world-renowned guitarists in the world, and just as your family member, I'm so proud of you. And thank you for taking the time to be on this, and just incredible. I think that your music is inherently political. It moves people in ways that are special, and so thank you for all that you do, because folks wouldn't know this, but he's made a commitment around healing and sound healing, and trained in that, and been in operating rooms playing music for healing and all sorts of things. And so, just thank you for your commitment to serving people. I really appreciate you.
Well, thank you so much. And the whole family is so proud of you. I hope you know how proud we are of you. And it's true that we all have a contribution to make. And, you obviously are known in the arts as an actor, but that's not all that you do, and that's not all you've been interested in. And so more dimensions of who you are and what's in your heart, what's been in your heart all along, are coming through. And that's one of the wonderful things about this campaign that you're doing right now, is this opportunity for you to really be sort of cooking on all burners, as they say, and I think that the age of the one-dimensional person, where either you do this or you do that age is long since gone. And I think the over-specialization is a big part of why things are in such a bad state right now, because people can kind of sit in their cubbyhole and do whatever it is that they do and say, well, I'm not responsible for anything else, or I'm not responsible for the consequences of what I'm doing. I'm just in my own little niche. But we all are responsible. We're all connected. And so what it takes is that kind of thinking, somebody who is in the arts, but also not afraid to take on the realities of the world and the forces that are keeping things stuck. So you've been a real inspiration there. And for me, my music, I was brought up at a time when so many of the artists who were, in the forefront of popularity were making music intended to change the world. So that's what I was brought up on. My whole concept of music to begin with was that it does something wonderful, and then it changes people's lives for the better. So in my own small way, I hope to make a contribution. So let me play a little song for you guys.
Oh, so beautiful, beautiful, beautiful.
Wow.
Hey, Hill, I'm sorry about the interruption. Stanley, you are nasty, my guy. You are
Yeah.
crazy.
I mean, we could listen to you all night. All night. Incredible. Can you be there live, like in front of the polling? Can you just move around to the different polling stations tomorrow?
Oh, I wish I could be there. I'm catching a flight to a gig in Seattle tomorrow, but I'm
No.
with you there in spirit. And for sure, if I were in Michigan, I would be all about that. I would be with you there.
Like Stanley, thank you so much. And the beautiful thing about art is that I think a lot of times politics and art get completely separated, but fundamentally, I believe that art like that is healing, soothing. It's to uplift the spirit, to help people live better lives and see themselves in a better place. And the best version of politics does the same thing, right? A safety net, an opportunity for people, an opportunity to live their best life. And so I'm just so thankful. Thank you so much for jumping in this. I know you've been on some long flights, you've been touring. So I
Oh, thank
appreciate
you.
you.
I'm so happy to contribute. Good luck.
Thank
I
you.
wish you all the best for tomorrow.
Thank you so much.
And I do need to bounce. I have an early flight tomorrow.
Understood. No, we appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Stanley. Okay. Thanks again.
Wow,
Kathy?
that was incredible. You know, well, Hill, I don't know what you were going to say, but I wanted to get back into some of the issues that you really stand for, so that people understand what they're voting for. You know, a lot of times we think about politics and it's just Democrat or Republican. I'm going to vote Democrat. I'm going to vote Republican, but it's so much bigger than a party. This is about real life issues. And you were talking earlier about the power that the Senate really has. The Senate is really, in some respects, more powerful than the president, but certainly as powerful as the president. And since 1789, there have been 2,000 senators. Only a dozen have been Black.
Yes, right.
And we have got 3 Black women right now that have an opportunity to make it into the Senate. We need to surround them, and we have Brother Hill Harper right now, who we really need to get behind and make sure that that's kind of like the dream team. If we can get this healthy mix, you know, of our people in there to help mold these decisions that are being made on our behalf, then you know we have a chance here over this next 6 years, you know, to make a difference.
It's truly historic. I mean, this is a historic time and a historic opportunity, particularly in Michigan. And obviously, I am running to represent the entire state of Michigan and all Michiganders. And in that vein, though, there hasn't been a senator from Detroit in Michigan since Carl Levin. And one of what most people would consider to be the person that most people would consider to be Michigan's greatest senator in history is a senator by the name of Phil Hart. And downtown Detroit, there's Hart Plaza that's named after him. But in DC, he was considered the conscience of the Senate. He fought for civil rights, fought against corporate greed. And the junior senators and whatever junior senator wins this seat, this open U.S. Senate seat here, their office will be in the Phil Hart building in Washington, D.C. When I went to visit my friend, junior Senator Barack Obama, his office was in the Phil Hart building. The senior senators don't want to be in the Phil Hart building. They want to be, you know, in the old Senate offices in the Capitol. So junior senators end up in the Phil Hart building. And so Michigan, for the first time in 57 years, does not have a Black Democratic representative in the federal delegation from the state. Of 13 congressional House members and 2 senators. And representation does matter. And
you know, you took the words out of my mouth, because I was going to say, why does that matter? You know, break that down for us. Why does that matter so much?
It matters on many levels, because at the end of the day, when we think about legislative priorities come even through folks that are hired in a senator's office from lived experience. And that's why when I think about this moment and I think about the fact that I'm not a career politician, and that's a good thing in this moment. I'm a cancer survivor. I'm a 32-year union member who's elected to the national board of my union to fight for fair contracts. I'm a 7-year small business owner. I'm a public school graduate, but then went to Brown University where I got my degree in economics and sociology and was valedictorian in my department, and then went to Harvard Law School where I got my Juris Doctorate degree in the Harvard's Kennedy School of Government. And my former Harvard Law School classmate became a United States Senator, then a president of the United States, and appointed me to the president's cancer panel, where we made recommendations to the White House, working with then Vice President Biden's office in their moonshot to cancer, as well as the National Institute of Health. And I'm a father of an 8-year-old, right? My main man Pierce. All of these things add up to a set of lived experience of a level of diversity that is needed in the U.S. Senate. We don't need more career politicians. We don't need more folks whose only job has been in the government. If I'm elected to the U.S. Senate, yes, I'd be an African-American senator when we need more of those, because there's only been 12 in history. And if we actually had 12 right now, we'd be underrepresented in terms of the population. But it wouldn't just be about that representation. It'd be about the fact that I'd be the only active union member in the U.S. Senate, and unions deserve a seat at the table. I'd be only one of 2 parents of an elementary age child in the U.S. Senate, and parents of elementary age children deserve a place in the U.S. Senate, because you have to talk about elementary education, early childhood education. We have to talk about the fact that guns are the number one killers of children. And we have to be responsive to this, and we have to have parents of children in the U.S. Senate. I'd be only one of a handful of small business owners in the U.S. Senate. And small businesses are the number one job creator in most communities across our country, particularly neighborhoods. We have to support small businesses and create opportunity for entrepreneurs to create jobs. And without that type of representation, these distinct communities and people don't have a voice. And they deserve to have a voice in that 100-person body. And that's why proudly be an African-American in the U.S. Senate, and to add to that number, but at the same time, represent all of these different elements of my lived experience and represent every Michigander. Every Michigander. I don't care if there's an R by your name, a D, or an I. It doesn't matter. You're a Michigander. I want to represent you, and I want to fight for you.
Yeah. So before we go on, I do want to first thank everybody who's tuning in tonight to support Hill Harper. I want to remind everyone of that. The email or the website, which is helphillwin.com, helphillwin.com. Pass that around to your friends. And the really critical reason that we're here tonight is because tomorrow is the primary. Tomorrow is the primary. A lot of times we blow off primaries. We just don't, we're not educated on that. We don't even think about that. All the emphasis is on November, but I said it earlier, I'll say it again. There will be no Hill in November. We cannot get Hill beyond tomorrow. So it's really important to pick up your friends, carpool on your way into work tomorrow, on your way home from work tomorrow, make it to the polls. It's really, really important. The bishop was on earlier, and he was talking about some of the issues that you just brought up, really talking about, a lot of the issues, in fact, that you just brought up are really the issues of the people. You're not up here, you're right down here. You are a businessman yourself. As you said, you're a father. You're really fighting for minimum wage. You're fighting for unions. You're fighting for all those things that, unfortunately, the older we get in life, and once we're retired, which the average age of senators is not where you are, you'll be one of the younger ones in the Senate, and the one of only 2 fathers, as you said, in the Senate. But these issues are things that directly affect, or school-age child. I'm sorry, not fathers. Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
A lot of parents have school-age children. But these, there
are a lot of grandparents in the Senate. There are a lot of grandparents.
Oh yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of grandparents. But these are issues that we need to deal with right now. They're the issues that people are living with right now. That we need someone who's actually in it to remind everybody that these issues matter. And so One of the questions I know has come up a lot about you, Hill, because yes, you are more accomplished than many people that are serving in Congress right now. But then you also have this very public side of you that's been an actor. And so sometimes I think people think that, you know, as an actor, why would you want to run for Senate? But I always say the lead is actually not the fact that you're an actor. The lead is that you're a Harvard Law School graduate, that you are as accomplished and as qualified, if not more qualified than most of the people that are serving in Congress right now. But what do you say to those people that question that?
You know, I talk about lived experience, and I talk about, you know, if it's a resume question, I'll put my resume up against anybody, but I don't think, you know, it is. I mean, I have 10 honorary doctoral degrees. I don't know how many
Right.
senators or congresspeople have 10 honorary doctoral degrees and 7 NAACP Image Awards, and you know, I've written 4 New York Times.
Keep it coming.
4, okay.
Keep it going. Yeah,
I've
put it
written
out there. You
4
don't have
New
to be
York
humble. Put
Times,
it out there.
4 New York Times best-selling books. I've started companies. I have foundations, and I was the national spokesperson for One Fair Wage, which we got a big victory in the Michigan Supreme Court last week. I was the national spokesperson for Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under Law, which is, you know, one of the best boots on the grounds, voters' rights and voter protection groups in the country. I was the national spokesperson for the Innocence Project, which obviously seeks to overturn wrongful convictions and in death penalty cases, and it's one reason I'm against the death penalty. And I was also the national ambassador for Big Brothers Big Sisters. I was very proud, and I just got inducted to the Big Brothers Big Sisters Hall of Fame. Shout out to them for this summer. But
Yes.
you know, at the end of the day, resumes don't vote. Money doesn't vote. Polls
Right.
don't vote. People vote. People vote. And in my whole life, I've wanted to put people first and work hard. I got that from my grandfather. I'm named after my grandfather, Dr. Harold Hill, who had a pharmacy in Seneca, South Carolina, Oconee County, and it was called Piedmont Pharmacy. And it served the Black community during Jim Crow segregation. And even after Jim Crow segregation ended, you know, and we could go to Rexall or Walgreens, the communities kept going to Doc Hill in Piedmont Pharmacy because he served them. And I saw at times where he would trade prescription medicines for chickens and potatoes. And I even asked him one time, I said, how come you don't make those people pay? And he said, sometimes people can't afford to pay, but they still need help and they still need to be served and they still need their medicine. And his service of the community has always inspired me. My grandfather, my other side, was from Iowa, and I was actually born in Iowa, and his name was Dr. Harry Harper. He had an 88-acre farm outside of Fort Madison, Iowa, and he was also a family doctor, which back then meant he was birthing babies. And he
Right.
and his brothers served the community in Iowa. And so service has always been a part of my family. My mother was one of the first Black female anesthesiologists in the country. My father was a psychiatrist. Both of my parents were doctors. And service has always run through that core. And so, yeah, we can have the resume accolades and the education pieces, but what's most important is what's in your heart. And what do you want to do? Like, how do you want to help and serve? And that's why I think our campaign has resonated with so many people, because they know we're putting people first. They know that I'm not taking corporate PAC money and I'm not looking to figure out a way to play political theater. And that was what was so sad about my opponent pulling out of all these debates the whole time, because it disenfranchised the voter of being able to hear just the heart of the candidates and the different in our different perspectives. And so hopefully voters will get out tomorrow, because we know we have all the energy and support, but folks have to actually vote.
Yeah, and I just really want to remind people, especially particularly young people, if you turn 18 this year, hopefully you're registered, you can vote, right? And before you go off to college, guys, you got to get this vote in.
Even if you're
Vote
not
right
registered
now.
in Michigan, you have same day registration. You can just show up to vote. You'll be able to register on the spot and you can vote.
What is that? How do you register? Do you have that website offhand? Maybe we can put it on the screen even tonight.
Well, one
Can
thing
you
you
show
can
up in
do-
person and vote or go online?
Yeah. So a couple things. Let's run down all the stuff. If you have a felony, whether
Yeah.
it's state or federal, you can vote here in Michigan. If you're on probation or parole here in Michigan, you can vote. If you're in jail awaiting trial, you can vote absentee. If you are 18 by November 5th, you can be 17 tomorrow and still vote. You just have to be 18 by November 5th and you can vote. We have same day registration. You can go to the city clerk, county clerk, you can register to vote and you can vote. Now, there are so many voting locations and sites across the entire state of Michigan. You can go to secretarystate.gov and put in your address and look up those sites. You can also go to hillharper.com and there's a button that you can hit to say find my location and put in your address and you'll find different voting locations. If you go to the wrong one, you can go to any one you see. They will tell you where, they'll look you up, tell you what precinct number you are, and send you to the right precinct. I'm starting at a polling location at 7:30 tomorrow morning, and we're going to go all the way through till 8 p.m. when the polls close. And so know that you can vote anytime during that window. Some polls are open from 8 to 8. Some polls are open from 7:30 to 7:30 or 8. It just depends. But remember, please go and take 10 people with you. Take 5 people with you. Take 3
Yes.
people with you. Take
Yeah.
people with you. Even if you don't have your ID, listen to this, you can vote. What you'll do is you'll fill out an affidavit of address. You'll sign that. It'll become a provisional ballot. It'll get checked out, and then your vote will be counted. So don't come up with excuses or reason why. It's really not why to vote. It's like, why not? You need to do this. And we
Yeah.
need you to show up. And then also we got to talk about this. When you go to vote in the primary, you have to vote partisan, meaning you can't cross vote.
That's a big thing. Drive that home. Yes, because a lot of voters get.
Yeah.
Yes.
In the general election, you can bounce around, vote for whoever, doesn't matter the party, and your ballot doesn't get spoiled. In the primary, your ballot will get spoiled if you vote in the Democratic side and then go over and vote down for another candidate on the Republican side. Your ballot will be disallowed. So on our ballots in Michigan, on the left column is the Democratic column. The U.S. Senate is at the very top of the ballot, the first thing you vote for on the top left. So you fill in my bubble, Hill Harper. Make sure you fill it in completely. And then once you fill that in, you vote straight down that line. You don't go into the other lane, which is the Republican lane. Don't vote over it. You have to vote straight down that line, and that's how you vote. Now, you don't have to fill in every bubble. You can choose to. If you don't know who some of the candidates are, you don't have to fill it in. But you vote in the Democratic side. Now, here's the confusing part. All the way to the right, there is a nonpartisan line, which is judges. And, provisions, different places have millages and different things that you can vote on. That's the far right of the ballot. You can vote on those. You just can't vote both left and middle. Okay. I need you to vote just left because that's the Democratic line. And so please vote left, and then you can vote far right, not the middle column. If you're going to vote for me, and hopefully if you're on here, you're going to vote for me. I'm hoping. So just vote in the left-hand column.
Got it. So let's bring you have Herman Moore that's on, and I know Mr.
Yes.
Moore can't stay on too long, so we want to make sure we bring you in here.
He didn't pop up on my screen. Herman Moore is a legend.
No.
He is a legend, Detroit Lions legend, and just a legend of a human being. He's become one of the most successful business men in the state of Michigan. He's incredible, and he's just a wonderful wonderful businessman and wonderful person, and obviously has so much respect in the state of Michigan and certainly in Detroit. Herman, how are you today?
I'm wonderful. Thank you so much again for having me come on and share some time with you and those that we hope will continue to show their support and get behind those that are trying to do what is best, not just for one side, but for a lot of the constituents, because we all need representation. We need someone that's going to stand in and do what's right, that's going to bring everyone together, that's also going to make sure that those that are sometimes left behind and or not thought about as much are getting the right representation and people that have voice for them to make those changes. So thanks for having me.
Thank you. Herman, how do you think that we can drive turnout tomorrow? I mean, you know so many Michiganders. You have folks coming through your businesses. What can we do to get people to vote? Because historically, the voting turnout in primaries has been low, and so many people may not even know about it. What can we do to drive turnout tomorrow?
As I like to tell people, and I take it back to almost like it is for me in business, you know, everyone has a part to play and everyone's role is equally important. So it's taking the time to come out and know that, you know, this is an important time that we're in, to make sure that we get the right people in the right places that will do the right thing. And to get them to come out is just making them understand, you know, it's not just about us sometimes. I'm always talking about legacy. I'm always talking about not just what is going to be done now, because there's a process that takes place. So get out and do your part now that will give us the opportunities now to start to put some things in place and to move the needle in strategic areas, but also start thinking about those that you care most about, those that are younger. If there's communities that you're wanting to make sure that they get, you know, the representation again and the things that they need, it's important that we all do our part. We hear people say that all the time, but it's never been so much, you know, as true now as it's been ever, that we get out and do those things. So it's important. Don't take this lightly.
Absolutely. And listen, I truly appreciate your leadership, and I, you know, hopefully we'll get the turnout. We'll go win this U.S. Senate seat, and would love for you to be as part of the advisory board, particularly as business owners here in Michigan, because we want to fight, and I want to fight to bring more investment and more business and more jobs and more opportunity and more growth here to Michigan, and be a great champion for bringing it here. And so, you know, we're going to promote Team 84. You know, when I played football, and I don't want to talk about myself too much, and, you know, when I was on the football field, you know, I almost wore the number 84 because I was actually a receiver myself. But I chose to wear the number 6 because I always liked to score 6 points. Now, Brown University has not, you know, they haven't retired the number 6, you know, probably because I didn't score enough touchdowns. But, you know, certainly the number 84, as far as I'm concerned, you know, no Detroit Lion will ever wear that number. And so, and as far as the Lions are concerned, that is true as well. So we appreciate you, and we thank you for your leadership.
I appreciate that. And if I could just say this really quick to everyone out there, that we've had an opportunity to see candidates and see the people that are out there. You know the right decisions to make. Hill, I've seen you out. You're doing any and everything that is possible to try and get out there. And those that haven't seen the work that's being done behind the scenes, it's because you're doing the work. And it's because you're out there and you can't be everywhere all at one time. The team that you have has been great. And I look forward to celebrating the things to come. And I hope that everyone understands that, again, what's at stake, that they will get out and show up and again, do their part and give support to your campaign and give support to all the things that we need to have done in the places of power and the places that can represent and have voices for those that aren't there. So thank you.
Thank you. That means a lot. And I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
And,
Thank you, Herman. Thank you. Thank you. Take a bunch of people with you. Get the people
Yeah.
out.
tell all your employees that they got to take 10 people and give them at least 2 to 3 hours off to vote.
I'll make sure I tell
Let's
them
be
that.
careful there.
Okay. Thank you.
Hey,
My pleasure.
Hill, as we're winding down, I wanted to give a few shout outs. There are a few people that have been sending you some messages in the chat. Mark Imlay says, how about helping the NGOs get their members to vote, for example, at the Sierra Club? At the Sierra Club, we let people know which candidates have a good environmental record. Mark also said, I signed petitions to raise the minimum wage, both state and federal. How much does that help?
That's amazing. I mean, that all of that helps. And there's no question as far as this Senate race, I'm by far the most voraciously environmentally friendly candidate in this U.S. Senate race, and hopefully I'll have the support of folks from the Sierra Club and and other organizations like LCV here in Michigan, et cetera, because we have to protect our environment at all costs. I'm the only candidate that's called for shutting down Alive 5. We have to have Camp Grayling clean up its PFAS groundwater poisoning. We have to limit that groundwater poisoning. We have so many beautiful lakes, rivers, tributaries, ponds, and across the state, and we have to protect our water. People deserve it, and all the way even here at Highland Park, we got to get the reservoir back. We got to get Highland Park controlling their own water supply again, and get that done. There's so many things we can do around the environment, clean air and clean water. But great, I know you have other people to talk about. I'm sorry, I won't say it. I'm not gonna talk
That's
about-
okay.
I'm
One
gonna-
more.
I'm gonna mute myself. I'm gonna mute myself.
Okay, no. They want to hear from you. Reverend Stephen B. Thompson says, "Hey Hill, just wanted you to know that 4 votes from this household are now at the Joyfield Township Hall, where we in Benzie County and the Benzie County Dems love you. Our next Senate tour." So,
Oh, I love
yes, thank you,
Benzie
Reverend
County. I love
Stephen
the Benzie
Thompson.
County Dems. They're great.
Yep. And you know what I wanted to ask you is we talked a lot about what you're going to do, but can we talk about what's at stake? Like, one of the big things that we've really been thinking about moving forward in this next general election is, our country's in trouble, not just Michigan, but our country is in trouble. And when you're being elected as a senator, you're not just representing just Michigan, you're really representing, our nation. And what is at stake if we can't make the right decisions in November?
Well, I mean, there's a number of things at stake but I mean, it was mentioned earlier. Think about Roe v. Wade, women's reproductive rights, women's reproductive freedom. My mother's 86 years old, and it's outrageous to me that my mother would have more body autonomy and dominion over her healthcare decisions than a 24-year-old staffer on my campaign. It's just wrong.
Yeah.
And the idea of now coming after IVF, coming after contraception, etc. That's one thing. But then you look at Project 2025, and I'll tell a quick story. When I was at Harvard Law School, there were some students I would disagree with. Neil Gorsuch, who's now in the U.S. Supreme Court, was there as part of a cohort of folks I disagree with. But point being, I was talking to a guy after class one time, and he said, I got to go to a meeting. I was like, where are you going? He said, oh, I'm going over into Boston. Cambridge, where Harvard is on one side of the river, and he's going over to Boston. I said, what are you doing there? Because in my mind, he's like, you're a student. What are you going to Boston for a meeting? He said, oh, yeah, this heritage group, we meet and we talk about what we think the future should look like. So this is, y'all, we're talking about late 80s, early 90s. We're talking about Project 2025 is not some new thing that just popped up. These folks have been meeting and planning for a very long time. And we have to stop playing checkers, and we have to play chess, and we have to be meeting and organized and sophisticated, or your rights will continue to be taken away. And we have to elect folks that are willing to fight back for the people's interest and not be bought by special interests, not be bought by corporate PAC and corporate interest. And that's what this candidacy represents, and a number of candidates, other candidates that are out there. We can get this done and we can provide this type of people first leadership, but the only way it works is to win. This isn't an attaboy race. This isn't, oh, we did great and it's fine. We have to sit in the seats. And when I say sit in the seat, I'm talking about collectively sit in the seats. That's why we've had people sign seats where we've gone, because this is our seat to claim as a collective. And so what's at risk is not being represented. What's at risk is your rights and your freedoms. What's at risk is quality education. What's at risk is you not having health care and continue to go into personal bankruptcy over it. What's at risk is not having access to a living wage. What's at risk is not having affordable housing. What's at risk is not having basic services and social services. What's at risk is continuing to see your tax dollars be sent overseas for foreign violence. And what's at risk is life or death, gun violence. It's literally the number one cause of death of children. All of these things are there. All of these things are on the table with this election. And the first three words of the U.S. Constitution, the first three words of the Michigan Constitution are exactly the same. We the people. It doesn't say we the politician. It doesn't say we the political party. It doesn't say we the big donor or we the super PAC or we the lobbyists. We the people. We're putting people first. We're going to fight for people. If the people show up tomorrow for us and you bring a bunch of people with you, we will win. This is all about turnout. This is all about turnout. And so thank you, everybody, for joining.
Yes.
Kathleen Trigg-Jones, you are incredible.
Yeah.
Now that we've had a couple of musical performances, I see that piano over your shoulder. Are you going to go back and play us out of this?
If you when you win, I'll do a line. I can play every Lionel Richie song ever written, every Commodore. So yes, when you win, I'll play Easy or something.
Okay,
like that
that's listen. If that is not an encouragement to vote, listen. If it's not about voting, vote just to hear Kathleen Trigg-Jones play some Lionel Richie songs.
These are like Sunday morning.
There you go. Okay,
I might even sing. Listen,
Kid J,
you need to get some rest because we need you. Yeah, I was going to say we need you tomorrow to be in full swing. You might be able to catch Hill if you show up at the polls tomorrow. HelpHillWin.com. HelpHillWin.com.
Any support to HelpHillWin.com is huge. Kid J, thank you so much for your leadership.
Thank you, Hill.
Let's get voters out tomorrow. I so appreciate you taking time to be on this, and thank you for that beautiful poem. You're incredible. Folks from the campaign, Jonathan, Molly, Lakeisha, thank you so much for what you've done. Everybody who's taking their time to be on this, I just say thank you to everybody. Let's go win this. Let's turn out voters and let's get it done. All right. God bless everybody. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
In the words of Kamala, let's show them what we did. All right.
That's right.
Let's do it.
Thank you.
All right.